Hey, it's Joe, and I got a viral theory. Scott the Woz. He looks oddly familiar, like he's been around forever. But how could that be when he's only been on the scene for a short amount of time? Well, that question took me down a strange rabbit hole, and I came back with the theory that he actually comes from a very famous bloodline. I know what you're thinking. I'm lying. You know for a fact that he isn't related to Steve Wozniak, the co-creator of the Apple computer.
Or there are a number of boards, including arcade boards, that are very cheap that you can buy for the Apple computer.
Well, that's not who I'm talking about, you smartass. Oh, so maybe it's a rhyming thing. The Woz, the Boz?
Raise your glasses, gentlemen, to civilization.
Nope. And that connection didn't lead me anywhere either. So I thought, well, football, maybe Vince Young, and no.
It's a football video game franchise that releases every year that peaked in 2007.
Even though he follows Vince Young, that's not his father. I don't see the family connection. Do you?
That's a great word, man.
But then it hit me. So if you take the name Woz, but what if I changed that O to an E, squeeze an E in here, E-R, I'd have Weezer.
Scott here.
Weezer? Pull up a photo of Rivers Cuomo. You're seeing what I'm seeing, right? Like, look at this. I'm not alone in thinking that, you know, there's a connection, right?
I got it way before you clowns ever did. See, what I did was I took his printed version of the blue album cover from Weezer, and I snapped my fingers 3 times. And then I said, show me the son of Rivers or else I will take your entire Xbox collection. Then it morphs to another printed album cover with Scott the Woz replacing Rivers. Thank me later.
So then I went deeper. And what I found will blow your mind. Everything you've ever seen Scott the Woz put on film came from his father, Rivers Cuomo.
So I always knew that Scott the Woz was Rivers Cuomo's son. And every time I listened to a Weezer song, or I listened to him talk, or I watched one of their music videos, all I could think was, oh man, Scott the Woz is so fun. Scott the Woz is so good. And vice versa. I mean, that goes both ways. Whenever I watch a Scott the Woz video, all I'm thinking about is Weezer's next album. Like, where are they going to release, you know?
Rivers has the magic in him. And that kind of magic could be inherited by a son who uses magic.
Just look at how long it takes for the character to learn when you put it on the bass. Magic!
What, you're not convinced? Well, your favorite video game host talks about the virgins.
Which is ridiculous because I'm a virgin talking about Mario again!
And who makes the music for the virgins? Weezer?
He also took a public vow of celibacy.
Okay, so maybe you're not able to accept that Rivers Cuomo has a son named Scott the Woz. Maybe your brain is just...
I can see it!
But I'm gonna provide real evidence before I go accusing anybody of anything, like how it used to be done. And where do all major conspiracies start? With Dick Vitale.
Serendipity, baby!
What exactly is a Dick Vitale? Apparently one of the most eccentric and beloved basketball commentators of all time.
Who tried to destroy the family legacy in one tweet. Who is the group Weezer? Never heard of them! Where is Smokey Robinson?
I like Dick Vitale more like I don't like Dick Vitale. I drew devil horns on him, that's how you know he's bad!
Dick Vitale tried to force Weezer out of existence. This was quite similar to his attack on a young Scott, where he forced all video games to become Dick Vitale's Awesome Baby College Hoops.
So this is just a wild shot in the dark here, but I assume this timeline has been altered, and now the only sports game you can play is Dick Vitale's Awesome Baby College Hoops.
You know this theory's correct. Did you think that Scott the Woz formed his opinions out of nowhere? No, they were influenced by Rivers Cuomo. Do you remember the Weezer song, If You're Wondering If I Want You To, I Want You To? That was actually inspired by a trip the two of them took to a Best Buy to buy a copy of Chibi Robo Ziplash. In many of Scott's videos, he talks about growing up with a Sega Genesis.
This was the first game that I ever truly owned.
Well, where do you think he got that Sega Genesis? It was his dad's. It was the very same Genesis that Weezer used to play NHL 95 on as they toured the United States. And much like his son, Rivers too would auction off his video game for a charitable cause.
All the money from this, that's whole 65 goes to charity, which is pretty cool.
Did you ever ask yourself, why does Scott care so much about the early internet days?
The internet! Woo! Who doesn't love a big, thick, honking heap of the internet? Oh, I know, Netmeister. Nobody.
Well, maybe the reason he cares is because he grew up with Windows 95.
Which brings us to the 1990s, the age of the net. Hold your horses, Netmeister. What's the difference between the World Wide Web and the internet?
Now, why does that matter? Well, when you put a Windows 95 disk into your computer back then, a certain music video would play. Whose music video? Weezer's Buddy Holly. Both Rivers Cuomo and Scott the Woz have gone on record as being not a fan of Rock Band or Guitar Hero.
It makes sense that these things completely died out. They simply were oversaturated to the point where many consumers didn't care to constantly buy them.
And both share that kind of charisma that inspires a very passionate fan base.
You just don't understand what Rivers is going through right now. I understand Rivers better than he understands himself.
Virgins and virginettes.
And they say you often take on the quirks that your parents have. You start dressing like them. And if you don't believe me, you see this shirt he's framing? Well, that was actually one of the shirts used in the Pork and Beans video. Or if your parents smoke, you're gonna want to smoke.
I went to the local carryout and I picked up some classic Mario Bros cigarettes. And I'm just gonna give these a solid huff and a puff and a blow.
And then that child will help a parent see the error of their ways. And that parent will aim to do better, like quitting cigarettes. Because if your son makes a PSA to get you to stop smoking, that's exactly what you're gonna do.
I can't do this. Look at me, becoming one of the monsters I used to fight against.
Sir, watch where you point that thing. Whoa. Now is not the time to toke up. No, don't get easy, sir. Don't get easy!
But if your dad thinks you can bond over vaping, well then you're hitting up the nearest vape shop.
And what better way to satiate my descent into madness than to go to my very first vape shop?
And some habits you don't even realize you picked up, like both of them obsessing over an EA Sports video game, or having an urge to perform a Monkees cover. Or their medical issues could be passed on to you. Like scoliosis, which is a condition that Scott has brought up in many reviews.
And I think I have scoliosis, but I'm too self-conscious to ask my doctor about it.
And you know who else suffered from scoliosis? Kurt Cobain of Nirvana, which, as everybody who's been around the internet knows, is just Rivers Cuomo. You even start to replicate their philosophies on life. During the recording of Make Believe, singer-songwriter Rivers Cuomo attended Harvard, gave up all his material possessions, and vowed to turn things around. During an episode of Scott the Woz, Scott gave up his physical game collection.
Just the mere thought of owning all these games physically makes me want to give myself a good old fist shaking.
Same difference. You don't just get their physical traits, you also get the mental traits. Like being prone to depression, which Rivers Cuomo used in his songwriting. A depression that came from negative reviews for Pinkerton. And even though he can play all the games that he wants, Scott also suffers from this.
Hey y'all, Scott here. You know, I was recently adding a brand new copy of Madden Away to my ever-growing collection when I contracted something. Depression.
Rivers, seeing that his son was lonely, contacted the popular app Tinder. What a better way to cure that depression with some low-pressure dating.
I have to find a mate. Like, really have to find a mate. So, what better way to do it than with a lack of confrontation by going on Tinder?
And then there's the times where your parents go out of their way to try to impress you. Rivers Cuomo had the thought, you know, my son likes video games, and all the kids seem to like that Fortnite game. What if there was a Weezer world in Fortnite?
It's easy to see why these games went viral. They all have elements that make them easily understandable, interesting, or entertaining to watch others play.
But Scott doesn't love Fortnite.
But does that make them automatically good games?
So you gotta try a new way to impress him.
We're sliding out into a living room, and it's me and 3 other players, and the 3 other players are some of my musical heroes. So I'm kind of freaking out as far as getting to know that Travis Barker and Pete Wentz and Rivers from Weezer are playing along to my song.
Listen, these weren't just games that were getting released constantly. These were $100+ sets that were taking up shelf space and flooding the market.
Retro games. What if we were like a Super Nintendo game? Then he'd have to forgive his foolish father. Maybe Rivers could connect with his son if the star of his son's favorite movie,
Michael Cera. It's one of the best video game movies not based on a video game.
covered a Weezer song.
Yeah.
You got it.
I can't remember the words.
Right here.
If you want to destroy my sweater, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Weezer would even play at one of Scott's events.
This will ease the tension.
Oh. Did Scott clap his hands and stomp his feet to the beat? No. He reacted like this.
You know what I like about my father and mother? Their unconditional love? No, I actually don't like them at all.
Rivers even let video games use his music. He tried to get it in Madden 2008.
Talking about Madden, looking at Madden, trading in Madden.
But the best he could do was Gran Turismo 5. Rivers was finally able to bond with his son, Scott the Woz, by going to the Game Awards together.
Now I'd like to introduce our next presenters. They're members of a Grammy award-winning band that I love personally. From Weezer, please welcome Brian Bell and Rivers Cuomo.
Just a warning, things are about to get heavy. If you got any earplugs, right now I'd like you to throw them away.
Devil May Cry 5.
Devil Trigger!
And Scott was so excited, he went off to talk to his friends about the Game Awards when it was all over.
I think the Game Awards is respectable.
Talk about wholesome, right? It's like you win your son's love by taking him to the Game Awards because you're a presenter.
It's awesome. I was so into that.
And then, you know, you get inspired by him when you see him outside selling lemonade.
Hey, pun! There's a pun! Anything with pun is fun.
And what do? You write a song called Lemonade. Quite frankly, that's a ton of evidence that proves that Rivers Cuomo is the father of Scott the Woz. If you don't believe me, I'll call my friend Maury up and we'll do a paternity test.
You are not!
I've made the case. Now you people get Scott the Woz to reply and accept his father. And they can take a trip to Beverly Hills.